Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host, and I'd like to ask you, how do you feel about your future? Or all of our futures together? What is the future going to be like? Well, we don't know. We can only guess. But right now, you might be optimistic or you might be pessimistic. Um, doesn't matter. The future will be what it is, and you can worry yourself all you want. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about worry, fear, the unknown with some spirit beings who know better. And we've talked with them before with our favorite spirit being communicator, Adria Estribou. Adria, welcome back to Energy Stew.
Thank you. Delighted to be back.
And these friendly spirits who are a big part of your life and probably a big part of all of our lives are Archangel Ariel and Raphael. And
Yeah.
they've always had a lot of wonderful things to say. And they communicate through you in a way that people who don't know how intuition works don't understand how our brain can be spoken to rather than just having our own thoughts.
Yeah.
And so you and I know how to get out of the way of our thoughts and listen and respond in a helpful way to the angels, or for me, I don't always know who's speaking through me, but I'm listening. As long as it's good news, I'm happy. and and for you, you've had many years of working with your angels.
Yes. I love working with them because they're so direct and also very practical, I feel, about what's going on for us or for people individually and then what we can do about it. They never seem interested in painting us as lesser than or victims. It's just here is your beautiful choice in this moment. It's really lovely the way they see humans.
Well, I think part of it is that humans often go into a victim mode, and um, I don't think angels play the victim role.
No, no, they're not in that paradigm at all,
Right, exactly.
from what I've
And
seen. Yeah,
and they help us climb out of it, and to have
yes, yeah,
perspective. And I think it's important to receive their wisdom in the positive nature that they offer.
yes. The perspective, it's so interesting. We had this big windstorm tornado watch a week or so ago here where I live in Tennessee, and um, my house was literally shaking for felt like hours, and then one gutter got ripped off and some roof tiles. And because I tend to, as you said, speak with spirit beings, like, all right, am I under attack? Is this about me? This is my first thing. Do I need to protect myself energetically? And then a day or two later, couldn't really drive the next day because there were power lines down. I drove out of my neighborhood and almost everyone's roof was missing a few shingles and some little pieces here and there ripped off of houses. And I immediately relaxed. It was kind of a funny thing, but seeing the perspective, oh, this was a big storm that went through. This is nothing about me and my energies in my house, particularly. So sometimes the perspective that the angels bring, I feel, is so helpful because they broaden it or change the angle of what we're looking at so that we can get out of that fear place or victim place and see things maybe a little more objectively for how they are, or see the grace in some situations. It's really lovely. So zooming out can be very helpful sometimes in perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm that way, just following spirit all the time. If I, there's sometimes I'll make choices from my own instincts, and sometimes I want to make choices being guided by, these other voices out there that can talk to me.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to live that way. We each have a gift that most people don't have, and can have. We're not really that unique, other than we have sought it out and
Yeah,
practiced
exactly.
and
Yeah.
developed our skills about it. But that's really what makes us different from other people, is just that we have gone about it. So let's just see what they have to say about how we can hold ourselves in such an unknown of the future, both near and far, and what do we really have to be afraid of?
Yeah, and this is Adria. I'd like the angels to jump right in here. It feels like they want to, and they'll introduce who's speaking. As I found their message about this so poignant, so hope you will too. This is Angel Raphael. So when you look at future, two things to notice here. One, future doesn't exist. And two, you have a role in whatever emanates into your world. So when you come into the posture of receiving a future from the outside, that's where you are weak. That's where you lose or disempower yourself. You lose power when you place it into some future that doesn't belong to you. So when you have a fear, let's say, or doubt, whether it comes up from media or someone else, maybe something in you that says, oh, what if my house were to collapse? What if there was an earthquake the way there was in Turkey? What if there was nuclear war? And all of these fears about the future, whether founded or unfounded, two things to remember. Again, first thing is future doesn't exist. It really never plays out the way the mind would script out what might happen in the future. Perhaps if you're in an earthquake zone, one day an earthquake does happen, but again, it's never going to happen the way the mind has structured it out as a script. Life is very dynamic, like wind, like earth, like water. It moves, it shakes, it rolls. Yes, there's movement, but not in a linear way you can script out and predict. So when you look at being ready for something you might fear, maybe it's a very quote unquote reasonable fear. How do you prepare then for all of these things that may or may not happen? We suggest as a daily practice, you spend 20 or 30 seconds. We know you each have that much time available somewhere in your day.
I hope so.
20 or 30 seconds, and you practice being right in the moment with what is, right in the moment with what is. So, not what did I plan for the day or what is someone telling me on the news media to beware of, but what do I sense and feel? Can be as simple as I feel tired. I need a snack. I feel so creative. Maybe I can take an hour to sit down and write that out because my day is flexible today. Or I'd love to go for a walk. Look, the sun is shining on my calendar. I had said 2 o'clock was taxes, 3 o'clock is walk, but look, it's 1 o'clock and it's sunny right now. Can I shift things around? So this is about learning to notice what is. And then, is there some action or change I want to take because of what is? It's that simple. Yes, it can play out in very profound ways, but we want you to re-empower yourself to notice right here in the moment. You can change and restructure to fit what is. So when you get used to practicing this 20, 30 seconds a day, when and if some big moment happens, the wind does rip the roof off of your head, of your house, not your head, hopefully. In that moment, you just notice, even if there's fear there, well, what's obvious? I run to the neighbor's house or something, right? Something will be very obvious in that moment. It's not mysterious. When you're with life in the very, very present moment, there's no mystery about how will I survive this or how will humanity survive this? Or
Right. Our
if you're a big
instincts,
thinker, right?
right. Our
There's no mystery.
survival instincts get
Yes,
going.
right present.
Yeah. And so maybe we need to really live more in trust of our survival instincts
Mhm.
rather than our fear-based motives, and deal with what we need to deal with
Mm.
as we see we need to deal with it. If it's preparing for a disaster, that's a lot to do also. But if it's a fear of a disaster that's unreasonable, and we have no idea how true it is or not, or you know, we can go on in our fears about it. But
Mhm.
if things are really showing up in life in ways that we can do something and we need to do something, we have to trust that we do have good survival instincts.
Yeah, this is Adria, and I think it's just if we practice this, I've been doing this for a couple of weeks now. This is something new from the angels, this emergency preparedness exercises. And I'm finding it really helpful. And I think one thing it can help is that sort of shock, if something does happen, well, this wasn't part of the plan. Instead, if you're really used to practicing, well, okay, but what's right here that's obvious, like right here in this hour or this minute, it's so much easier, I find, the choices are just more obvious. Where
Yeah, when
if
the
I try
choices
to
are
project what's
obvious,
going to
right?
happen next month, how do I get ready for that? Am I going to, be resilient in this time? And it just gets hard. The mind gets more and more wrapped up in the fear. But if I come right to, well, right now, what's the obvious thing? Sometimes it is, I don't know, buying soup at the store because it's on sale in case, there is a windstorm. But so I'm not saying it's never about practical preparedness, but it's always, what is it right now? That's very
Right.
helpful. It's easier.
And even worrying about climate and weather predicaments, etc., is one thing, and it's an obvious fear to have because we are vulnerable, but then again we can blow it out of proportion.
Mhm.
And so we have to really know how reasonable we are about our fears about things that are likely to be a problem, and we don't know to what extent. And yet, I think the bigger fears have to do with our society, with our like the economy and the climate,
Mhm.
and we don't know, because there's all these climate change activists, and then there are all the naysayers, and they point to other aspects of why there's climate change other than carbon dioxide. And so are we open-minded about other ways to look at things, or are we just going to go into fear and kill all the cows off because of um, their flatulence?
Mm.
um, as if that's going to destroy the atmosphere.
This is Angel Raphael. Yes, and when you look at broader things like climate, nuclear war, bank shortages, those kinds of things that feel very much out of individual control, again, it's looking here in my heart in this moment. What do I have to say about this? Is it that I want to start my own media campaign? Am I a big thinker or a nonprofit organization? Or is it that I want to prepare in certain ways for my own home and house and family and neighbors and friends? Or is it that I want to shift focus entirely away from the global sphere and the unknown into the present, delicious, meditative moment right here? So, on a, let's say, spiritual level, there's also the awareness that fear is not very responsive or reactive. So you can practice coming into grace, joy, presence. Almost anything other than fear is going to be more resilient in getting you through any big event should it happen. So that's another practice point.
Yeah, I like that a
Medication
lot. And
itself is quite restorative and
yeah,
keeps your resilience for moments like that.
well, it's the idea of raising our vibrations through calm and harmony
Mhm.
to actually have more clarity and more inner strength.
Yeah.
So it's really about perspective and how we hold it. Because I've worked with a lot of people over the years who go to the extreme levels of fear and paranoia to extremes. And you look at that and you go, well, if you want that to run your life, it's certainly not the way I would want to run my life. But there are people who just live off of fear, and it becomes a trap.
Mhm.
They're just uh,
Difficult to know how to get out of it. Yeah.
yeah, they're
It's
painting
very
themselves into a
seductive.
corner.
Yeah.
But
This is Angel Raphael. Yes, and understand there's a difference here also how energetically how the world is structured to how it was 4 or 5 years ago or less. The future really does not exist now in the same way. Let's say if you thought of the world as a holodeck, the built environments used to stretch out farther, and now they really are, let's say, a hand's width away from you. So your ability to change, the good news is your ability to change things in the moment, much, much more real. But also your ability to project what's about to happen is much less real. So thinking it through, what's likely to happen in the future, is not going to be very helpful in these times. Deciding what you would like is very, very empowering and helpful. Deciding what you'd like to declare. And then again, it's fluid, you can change it, but it's important to notice, oh, I really can't see as far into the future as I used to be in any practical, pragmatic sense. That's real. That's a shift in how the universe operates now, the human universe. Quite different now, quite lovely from angelic perspective, but an adjustment for sure. So if you spend the old ways preparing or in a linear sense thinking that you can map out what's about to happen and spinning your wheels getting ready for that, by the time those 5 years arrive, everything is completely new. So it's a much, much more insular in the sense it's closer in, it's second by second now, not year by year. It's a very, very different universe.
I love that. And and so how are we doing second by second? And that has so much to do with being centered, grounded, feeling whole.
Yeah,
Because when you feel whole, it's hard to disturb that.
yeah. And finding that this is Adria from somehow within yourself or your your spirit team if you like to connect to them, but and not from some external sense of security or safety. It's an adjustment. I've certainly seen that for me. This idea of being in the present moment, it's very, very different. It's no longer sort of a lovely spiritual idea. It's like that's all there is for me. I notice it's very stark. Well, I have to be in the present moment because that's all there is.
Yeah, and I like the way we started this by saying there is no future until it happens. It's only
Hmm.
our imagination about it.
Yeah,
And we can look at patterns and say, well, the patterns are moving us this way or that way. But we don't even know that the patterns can shift. And so, we can talk about all kinds of disasters. How many disasters have been predicted in the last 10 years that never came to be?
yeah, right. And we certainly really believed in a lot of them.
Yeah.
To huge, spend millions of dollars preparing and a lot of fear and all of that for sure.
Yeah, I remember the old days with Y2K,
Right. I
and
was
all
just
the
thinking that.
computers were going to die off. So, it's an opportunity to to be grounded in spirit,
Hmm.
and it's wonderful that you have this facility to have perspective through spirit, to not be caught up in your own mind, but by having other minds, other voices speak through you and to you, that you can hold life more comfortably because you're not alone in your own difficult imaginations.
Hmm. Yeah, but I certainly have that too. Anyone, my own
Sure.
difficult imagination. That's still very alive and well. Just have
Yeah.
some
I mean,
other options to
yeah,
draw from. Yeah.
I do too, because I'm designed to have uncertainty, and um, I have a trait in my human design called reality creates instability. And
Mm.
so that means I can always see the dark side of things, which actually makes me very helpful to people because then I understand
Mm.
people
Mm.
who are coming from that, and I can see that um, it's just a way of that we look at things that isn't necessarily true or accurate, and yet we're born to imagine, um, you know, the dark side.
Mm.
So the idea is really to have this input that reminds us that our fears don't have to be real at all.
Yeah. I'm remembering, I think it's a year or so ago now, the angels were talking about fear really leaving human consciousness and the way we've known it. So we're kind of outgrowing it, where fear becomes, there's that visceral present moment fear where like the body kind of wakes up, oh, you're about to walk over a cliff, hold on. But the other kind of fears don't serve us anymore, so that we're really outgrowing that. So
And yeah, I've
this,
heard that too, and I love
yeah,
that. That what can you imagine a world without such fear? There'll be such less controversy.
yeah, because the way I see it doesn't really, I don't feel personally it serves me, like these fears of the future. It paralyzes me, or it
Right.
gets me spun off and worry that it just doesn't help me or anyone that I've seen, except for that very real, like, whoops, there's fire there. Wake up. That fear I'd like to keep.
Right. So our
Kind of
survival, we
adrenaline
have,
rush. Action.
that's why we need to trust our survival instincts that they
Yeah.
will uh, shout at us when needed, and to know the difference between our survival shouting at us and our neuroses shouting at us.
Yeah.
So it's great that the angels can talk with us. How do people learn more about how to talk with the angels through you, and with all the things that you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. My website is adriaestribou.love. ADRIAESTRIBOU.love.
I
That's
love
a mouthful.
that.
And I'm also up on YouTube, same name.
Great. And you do a lot of group work and personal work with people.
Yes, transmissions and groups with the angels every week now. So there's a lot of very present moment content. So if you're looking for what's alive in the energies right now, there's a lot of that.
And yeah, I'm so glad that they are um, supporting us the way they are by
Yes.
giving you such important information on a regular basis.
Yeah, me too. It's quite profound.
Yeah. Well, life is so much more, um, I mean, let's say, um, spiritually beautiful if we look for that,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
not be caught up in just the third dimensional linear struggles that humanity has been in all these millennia. And now we're
Mhm.
actually moving to a much higher place of a quantum reality. that operates differently, and we need to learn how to operate with it.
And we have support, which is amazing. You know, certainly the angels and galactic friends and other guides in spirit, and of course each other, humans. So I hope you know, whoever's listening, you're not alone in this. There's tremendous realms of support here for you.
I love that. Yeah, and people don't realize how much we're being supported from the other side,
Yeah.
and it's huge. Angels, spirit guides, ancestors—they're all there.
Yes.
It's beautiful. So, I love talking with you because it feels holy to be communing with angels,
Mm.
and their beingness feels very helpful.
And they're so, yes, absolutely. And they're so available to all of us. I want everyone to know you have your own angels, each of you, as well as the so-called archangels, whatever you refer to them. Uh, so many angels available to all of us. So this is not just something that me as a channel have access to. You each have your angels. So call on
Right.
them for
It's
support.
beautiful.
Just say, hey, I want your help with this.
It's beautiful. And as we learned recently in a show with them, that we think of them in linear ways, that they can only show up here or there, but they
Yeah.
can show up here and there.
Yes, yes.
And it's beautiful to know that we're not hogging them. Uh, they can be everywhere.
Yes, there's plenty of time for each of us. Unlimited
Right.
resources at our disposal. Absolutely.
So this has been wonderful talking with you and with the angels, and thank you so much for being on Energy Stew again.
My pleasure.
And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew at prn.live. I can be reached at peter@heartriver, HEART river.org. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for listening.